Today, Virginia lawmakers are reacting to Governor Spanberger's executive order that would end partnerships between state police and ICE. Spanberger says the previous agreement puts state agencies under federal control. U.S. Democratic Senator Mark Warner says that he is supportive of her decision and believes it was the right move until reforms are made.
Your main job as the local police is to keep the community safe. If your community members believe that you're working with a rogue agency, they can't do their job.
U.S. Republican Representative Morgan Griffith says he believes Governor Spanberger's decision will create more division between state agencies and ICE operations.
You don't have any communication, you don't have any cooperation, all of that falls apart, and there are going to be misunderstandings, and it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be more dangerous for all.
Griffith says he hopes the governor will reconsider the choice and work to find a solution where ICE operations and state agencies can work hand in hand.
New details. The Department of Homeland Security is reporting during President Trump's first year back in office, there were more than 180 vehicle attacks on officers, 68 against ICE and 114 against Border Patrol. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, joining us after digging through these numbers. Jeff, for ICE specifically, that data represents an over 3,000% increase compared to last year. What more can you tell us?
So the Department of Homeland Security releasing these updated statistics this week, citing multiple recent examples of vehicle attacks against law enforcement across the entire nation, including in states like California, Colorado, and also in Maryland. Now, the numbers also being shared as anti-ICE blockades continue to pick up in Minnesota. From January 21st, 2025 to January 24th of this year, DHS reporting ICE and Border Patrol have experienced 182 vehicle attacks against them, 68 against ICE specifically, and 114 against CBP. Trump administration officials pointing to violent rhetoric from local politicians, including in Minnesota, as one reason why.
This kind of violence is perpetuated by what we hear the governor saying, what we hear the mayor in Minneapolis saying, and their irresponsibility is extremely reckless.
I said in March, if the rhetoric didn't stop, there's going to be bloodshed. And there has been.
These new numbers come the same week DHS announced that federal law enforcement officials have arrested over 4,000 illegal immigrants in Minnesota since launching Operation Metro Surge in late 2025. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt saying in part, quote, Democrats opened our borders and allowed vicious criminals, including murderers, rapists, gang members, and terrorists to invade our communities. President Trump is reversing that horrific damage and removing these threats from our country. Meanwhile, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey recently avoiding a question when asked if it was good policy for jails to honor ICE detainers, and specifically why the city is refusing to cooperate with a measure that was once standard under the Obama administration.
Big picture, do you think it's good policy for the jails to follow an ICE detainer and hand someone over if they've committed a crime?
I mean, look, you're asking all the right questions here. And while I don't have full expertise in how the operations at the jail are conducted, again, that's not our jurisdiction.
Now, in some other Democratic states, officials are also taking steps to create distance from ICE operations, including in Virginia, where Governor Abigail Spanberger ordered state law enforcement agencies to dissolve any partnership agreements with federal immigration enforcement.
Sadly, the bad tactics, the bad training, the bad vetting that we have seen or witnessed or perceive in places like Minnesota, that is degrading trust in law enforcement.
Now in Maryland, both chambers in the state's General Assembly also approving legislation this week that would end agreements allowing 8 jurisdictions to work with federal immigration authorities in detention facilities, but that legislation still needs to be signed by Governor Wes Moore. Reporting for the National News Desk, I'm Jeff Harris.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us for KT News at 11. I'm Deborah Knapp. Only on K2, we're pressing Congresswoman Maxine Dexter about the legal limits asylum seekers have. Victor Park is at the live desk with details tonight. Victor?
And good evening there, Deb. Representative Maxine Dexter is in Texas advocating for the release of the 7-year-old girl and her parents. Tonight, the Department of Homeland Security is saying anyone seeking asylum can legally be detained. Multiple reports say on January 16, a child was outside a hospital in East Portland seeking treatment for a nosebleed that wouldn't stop. DHS says Border Patrol agents detained the 7-year-old girl along with her mother and father. DHS confirms the family entered the U.S. in 2024 through the CBP One app. They say, quote, "The law requires those in the country illegally claiming asylum to be detained pending removal." Legal experts say asylum seekers can legally be detained during the process. Congresswoman Maxine Dexter is in Dilley, Texas, where she says the family is being held.
The executive branch basically does have the authority to decide how the asylum process works. So what is being done here that you are trying to challenge?
So one, there have been multiple courts that have established that this is not consistent with the law. These are active asylum seekers who have followed the law.
Republicans argue just like the Biden administration changed the process, the Trump administration can do the same.
So what are you doing to try to change that?
We know the Flores settlement established that 20 days is the duration, the maximum duration acceptable for keeping a child in detention. Today is 20 days that Diana Crespo has been detained.
Multiple federal judges have released detainees due to alleged inhumane conditions at detention centers, and DHS confirms there is an active measles outbreak in the Dilley, Texas detention center. And I should note that the Gresham family is being held at the same detention center 5-year-old Liam Gonejo Ramos and his father were sent to before a judge ordered their release. Dexter says it is that kind of congressional pressure she is aiming for. At the live desk, I'm Victor Park, KVII News.
Victor, thank you.
Maine Senator Susan Collins breaking ranks with many of her Republican colleagues, saying the immigration surge in Maine was, quote, way out of hand. Senator Collins says she came to that conclusion after seeing stories of immigrants detained here in Maine who believed they were in the country legally with valid work permits. Now, despite that paperwork, some of them were detained, with many still in custody. Collins telling Fox 23 when she heard about these cases, she then asked DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to cancel ICE's enhanced operations in Maine.
I don't think we want criminals from other countries here in the state of Maine or anywhere in our country committing other crimes. But clearly this was way out of hand, and I was glad I was able to intervene.
Federal officials dubbed that operation Catch of the Day, which Senator Collins also said is offensive. The surge claimed to target, quote, the worst of the worst. However, many of those detained do not have criminal records and were in the country lawfully.
Coming up